All right, okay. So are you ready to? Should we record this fucker?
Yeah, what this isn't on the podcast. What are you talking about?
Oh right, yeah. No, I could always put it at the end.
Please don't.
Of Chet and John's Reassuringly Finite Gaming Playlist. My name is Chet Rovers. With me this week is not John Denton. Instead, I am with former Joypod host and co-creator David Turner.
How can she slap?
How can she slap? Okay, well, this is what we're going to do, the same old thing, although it's been the past 14 days, the last 2 weeks, the games we've been playing, the number 10s are the games we've been playing the least. Over the last 2 weeks, the number 1s are the games we've been playing the most. John, that's it. Let's do this.
Magic Piano is an iOS app that my brother said that I should download last night. So I thought I'd give it a try. Have you even heard of this?
This sounds like something that John spoke about a little while ago.
Probably is. I don't really listen to John's bits. I try and just fast forward to Chet bits. Standard. It's weird. It's a very, very strange rhythm action game that isn't really rhythm action. It gives you a lot of freedom to fuck up. Although it does get very challenging on the harder levels, and even medium, I find it quite challenging. In fact, actually, it feels terrible playing on an iPhone. I can only assume that there's an iPad version. Well, I hope so anyway, because it feels like you need more space to put your fingers down and pretend to play the piano. So the idea is the notes appear. Sometimes you have to press 3 fingers down on the screen, sometimes 4, sometimes 1, and you sort of magically play a tune, so you're not actually choosing certain keys or anything. It's more about how many fingers you're putting down and the tempo that you're playing at, and it's actually really good fun. It makes you feel as though you're playing a piano, because when you do screw up, it sounds realistic. Like it really does sound like you're practicing the piano, but you're half decent, but the problem is, it's the most cliched iOS game I've ever played. Everything you hate about iOS free-to-play gaming is in this. There's a huge roster of songs. There's so many songs on there, and some real, famous ones. But you can't access them unless you've got 75 coins. Now, I've played about 14, 15 songs. Many of them have been a repeat of about 2 or 3, and I've got about 5 coins. And if I want to, 75 coins, I've got to pay a lot of money for that. Or you can pay like passes for a week to unlock everything for like $1.99 and stuff like that. And then full screen ads just pop up, and it's like, yeah, just look at this now. I wanted to play one song earlier. I went to play it, and it said you have to watch a 30-second ad before you're able to play this. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want any of this. If it was 69p or £1, you'd think, yeah, bang that in, brilliant. But it's not. It just tries to eke money out of you. And I can only assume that it's really successful, because it's that sort of insidious gameplay that people like these days. You know what I mean?
It sounds like a game we've spoken about before called Smule Piano, which has a subscription.
It's exactly the same thing. Yeah, Smule. It's made by the same people. So yeah, you have spoken about it before, but John must have mentioned it because I don't remember being spoken about.
I spoke about it very briefly because my girlfriend was obsessed with it. But when you started talking about it, I thought it was going to turn out to be absolutely terrible because your brother was getting you to play it on a wind-up.
No, I mean, do you know what? It's not terrible. It's actually really compelling to play and really interesting to play. But it feels as though if you want to make any sort of progression, if you want to unlock things, if you want to, just do anything other than the standard 4 or 5 tracks, then you have to pump money into it. And I'm still, I don't know whether I like free-to-play gaming or not. I really don't. Part of me thinks, well, isn't it good that, you've got the option to pay as much as you want or whatever? And part of me thinks, fuck you guys, just give me the full game. So I don't know, I'm a bit conflicted. But as we've said many times on all podcasts, I think maybe we're just getting out of touch and old. because the youngsters don't mind this stuff, do they?
Exactly. It's
Bloody youngsters.
Definitely a possibility. All right. What was it called? Micro piano.
Magic piano.
Magic piano. Okay.
That's the fella.
All right. Okay, my number 10. I don't know if you played this. I don't know what the actual title is, but on the screen on the Xbox 360 it said "Penalty Master?" ? Have you on the 360 dashboard at the moment? There's a link to a microsite page that's called. I think the page is called Destination Brazil. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. No, I tend to close my eyes when the dashboard comes up on the 360 for fear of adverts getting inside my brain and making me buy Coca-Cola.
Good idea. Yeah, obviously it's a World Cup themed little micro page they have, and it's pretty damn feeble. It's like a hub page, and there's a link to watch highlights on iPlayer. It takes you straight there. There's a link, of course, to buy FIFA 14, and there's a really brief 5-question quiz, which is just fucking rubbish. The only good thing about it is that there's up-to-date match results, so you can check the results if you don't know what they are. And then there is a flash game that doesn't have a title. Like I said, I think it's called Penalty Master ? But yeah, you click on it, and your avatar is facing the goal, and you pick one of your friends' avatars from your friends list to be the keeper. A little arrow ticks from left to right. You click it once, and then you click it again for a power. I mean, it is awful. It barely works. Everything in this little microsite area looks like it was assembled by like the work experience kid in about 8 minutes before he was sent back to school. But seriously, it's either the work of people who are sort of feigning an interest in football, or it's an example of how small the budget is for things that are sort of on 360 these days. If it was on Xbox One, I'm sure.
I think that's crazy. There's so many more 360s out there than Xbox Ones. Why are they putting? It does seem like that. It does seem like they're trying to wind things down, and I just think that's mad when there's so many 360s out there. It's like a button that says "Come to our World Cup page." You click on it, it goes, "The World Cup's on. What are you doing?" Go away. What do you want from us?
Go and have a look at it if you're interested in what a terrible game looks like.
I am actually quite interested. I might have to check that out.
Nice.
Right, my number 9 is a game called Flappy Golf, which was recommended to me by someone on Twitter, and it's made by the same guys that make Stickman Golf. You know that?
Nope.
You've never played Stickman Golf?
No.
Oh, you're crazy. You've got an iOS device, haven't you?
I do.
You'd absolutely love it. It's just like a little crazy, wacky golf game, but it's asynchronous. So I take my shot and then you take your shot, and it's brilliant. Like, it's really very good. It's got power-ups and all sorts. It's really addictive. It's an excellent game. I can't believe you've not played it. John's definitely played it. He's spoken about it on the show. Basically, this is a piss take of Flappy Birds, obviously, but what they've done is they've taken all the courses from Stickman Golf, and they've turned the golf ball into a Flappy Bird. So what you've got, like 15 flaps to hit par on one of their courses. So you've got to get the ball in the hole, or the bird in the hole, within 15 taps of the screen, and that's it. Basically, it's free. It's full of adverts, but it's quite funny. I like the way they've taken their existing game and they've adapted it to make it a parody of a successful game. Yeah. And it's not offensive. It's actually pretty fun to play. And all right, the adverts are a bit shit, but you can't really complain. It's free, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you need to have played the golf game before to appreciate it properly?
Yeah, I think so. I think otherwise it's just like a sort of yes and no. You will find it funnier, and you'll like it more when you've played the golf game. Otherwise, you just think, well, this is okay. Right, I get the joke. That's it. But because they're courses you're so familiar with from playing Stickman Golf, the second one, you're kind of like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing here. I know if I touch this bit, it sticks and stuff like that, and it all works. Yeah, it's just a nice little twist on an existing game that they've just slung out for free and probably took them next to no time to make. But yeah, play that. Matt Murray's listening to this. I know he is. Download that because you'll like that. He was a huge fan of Stickman Golf. That guy played that far too long.
This is just a one-player game, I assume.
No, it's got multiplayer in it, but I've not tried it yet. I don't know if it's over the internet or just local play. But no, it's got multiplayer on it. How that works, I do not know.
All right. Okay, well, I'll definitely check out the Stickman Golf thing anyway.
Yeah, I can't believe you've not played that. It's amazing.
All right.
What are you doing with your life?
I don't know. Well, I'll speak about it next week, no doubt.
Good.
Okay, bizarrely enough, my number 9 is a game called Flappy Monkey on the Xbox 360. I saw this, it appeared as, it's an indie game, needless to say, and it appeared, and I thought the Flappy Bird craze was over. Apparently it isn't. But the last 10 or so games that arrived on, if you go to the latest releases for XBlig, the last 10 games don't have community ratings. I mean, like, so few people download and buy them and rate them that they've got none. But this one had loads of ratings. It only amounted to 2 stars, but I mean, it's still clearly a certain number of people had purchased it. And yeah, it's Flappy Bird. You're a monkey, but you can randomly hit scenery and die, and you can also shit. You press B to shit on these people that you go past holding bananas. You get extra points. The trial is 7 minutes long or so. I reckon I died about 70 times in that time. I guess that's a selling point. You collect bananas. It runs at about 6 frames per second. And you shit on people holding bananas. It's garbage, and it's really cheaply made. I mean, even for an XBlig game, it looks like it was knocked up in an afternoon. So Flappy Monkey.
I've got a question for you. How many Flappy Bird games have you played?
Too many, because I often try the XBlig ones, because the first one that came out was actually legitimately good with multiplayer. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm always on XBlig. You never know. You might find a gem.
So what do you do in your life? Like you sit down in front of your Xbox and you say, right, okay, now it's XBlig time. I'm just going to sit and download. What, like, do you download a batch of them, or do you go, that one looks good, I'm going to download?
You just go to latest releases and just download a bunch. Yeah, there's not that many these days, so it doesn't take particularly long. I mean, there are some you look at and you just like, I'm not downloading that if you had a gun to my head. You can spot a real horse shit, but apparently you can't, because Flappy Monkey was terrible and I didn't spot it. But I wanted to try it. It's rubbish, don't do it.
Okay, all right. I've still got more questions about that.
Okay.
This is an insight into your life, but... yeah, weird. All right, well, we'll move on. My number 8 now, isn't it? Is Layton Brothers Mystery Room, another recommendation from Twitter. It's a iOS game based in the Professor Layton universe. I think it's supposed to be his son or something. I don't know. I've not met the other Layton brother yet, so I don't know where that's come from. It's basically... Although it's based around the Layton universe, it feels like a Phoenix Wright game where there's a murder and you and your assistant have to solve the mystery. It's not got any of the court case stuff. It's all done after the incident, and but you do interview suspects and build up a case and stuff. It's brilliant. These games are wonderful and they're brilliant. It works brilliantly on the iOS device. There's not much gameplay to it. There's no massive amount of skill involved. If you fuck up, the game gives you enough, chances to get the correct answers by, simple elimination and stuff like that. It's really good. It's really slick. I'll tell you something. It is really nice to play an iOS game that feels like it's an actual video game. It's got all the nice presentation. It looks gorgeous, and there seems to be a lot of content in there. And it was free as well. I don't know why. I find that very strange. One thing I was thinking when I was playing it. Do you think? I was thinking, was this supposed to be like a Professor Layton game, but Nintendo didn't want any of their sort of characters on iOS?
Well,
I don't know, it's weird.
I was just about to ask, who developed it?
Well, what was it, Level 5, is it, that do...
Aren't they like, technically a second-party Nintendo studio now?
Yeah, I think, well, they make a joke to the fact... There's a joke in it right at the beginning where, the guy... I can't remember the character's first name, but his second name's Layton, and the assistant goes, I'm just going to call you the Professor. And then the first character goes, please don't do that. It's very complicated. Please don't call me Professor. Stuff like that. So I think they're joking about it, but I don't know. I'm surprised this is out. It was supposed to be out on the either the DS or the 3DS, but it kept getting delayed. And then they announced it as an iOS game. But it's free, and it feels quality. You can feel the quality from it. The writing's solid, localization's excellent, visually it's beautiful, and it feels like there's a point to the game. It essentially feels like a DS game on the iPhone. So I can't recommend it enough, really. And although I'm very, very early on, I've really liked what I've played, and I can't wait to start really getting into it, because I used to love those Phoenix Wright games. Which reminds me, actually, the Phoenix Wright games are on iPhones as well, aren't they? So maybe they're just chilling out a little bit. Nintendo, they're like, yeah, do we want now?
But this is completely free.
It is, yeah.
I don't, because if they were charging for it, I might suspect that Nintendo were like silent partners looking to see how these things sold, and then they might sort of cut loose a few other properties. But I mean, it's completely free, and it feels like a lengthy, well,
you got to. I'm on the first case, so they might later on drop in-app purchases. I don't know. I haven't got that far into it. But the first case, it just feels like it's just kind of an interactive storybook. As those games are, it's not. That's nothing surprising. But yeah, it just seems free. No adverts. No. Just suddenly asking for money. I don't know how long it is because I'm only on the first case, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
What was it called? The Layton Brothers?
Layton Brothers Mystery Room.
That's strange. All
Don't
right.
call him Professor.
I might look into that then. Interesting one, that. Okay. Okay, my number 8 is not an interesting one, and I didn't have any intention of playing this, but I did. It's Halo Spartan Assault on the Xbox One.
That's my number 7, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, why don't you kick off?
So I downloaded this on the dashboard. I downloaded it as free with Games on Gold or whatever, and I sat and played it, and I really liked it. The campaign, anyway, it's basically a twin stick shooter, but it doesn't feel like a twin stick shooter. It feels like a isometric version of Halo. You've got grunts and elites coming at you, and you can pick their weapons up and dual wield things, and the grenades all work as they should, and you've got the melee attack to take down some grunts like at close range and stuff like that. It felt really good, and I come away getting this real big Halo feel from it. And then I noticed on the menu that it said co-op play, and I was like, right, Chet's playing this. So we got together last night, didn't we? Little Xbox party. There ain't no party like an Xbox party. After we'd got rid of all the little bugs that meant that we couldn't talk to one another on a Xbox One party, we were away. And I suddenly hated it.
I don't know why you liked it in the first place, to be fair.
Let's be fair. We were playing co-op against the Flood. Now, I don't understand why any game would have the Flood in it anymore. Like from the first one, everyone said the Flood is shit, and it's like everyone that's worked on a Halo game sits down at some point and goes, "Listen, we've run out of things to put in this game. What about the Flood? No, we've been through this. Come on, the Flood." Okay, all right, let's put the Flood in, and every time it's been utter shit, and this game is no exception. And all of a sudden, it felt like a twin-stick shooter and not the sort of, top-down Halo game that the campaign felt.
I didn't feel. I thought it was just as boring and dull as the campaign. I don't know why you liked it so much on single player. I just thought it was nice to hear the Halo sound effects and whatnot. But I just thought it was the laziest thing in the world. I mean, most gamers I think have played that type of game 6 billion times and seen that genre done. But that's not. I've seen that kind of game done 6 billion times better than Spartan Assault. I just thought it was lazy and boring. But it's definitely worse in co-op. They could have just made the campaign so simple. They could have just allowed you to drop a second player in there. Instead, it's Horde, a really easy Horde against the Flood. Man, It's lousy.
Yeah, it is. It's bad. I don't know. I just had this moment where I was chucking grenades and I was watching the elites dart behind cover and stuff, and it really did give me that Halo feel. I really liked it, but the Flood, despite being in pretty much every Halo, has never given me the Halo feel. It's just got me angry. So when I saw them when we were doing co-op, I was like, oh, fuck this. And I think we both screamed Xbox go to Titanfall at exactly the same time. So, terrible.
Yeah, pretty lousy. But yeah, that was your...
It was my 7, yeah, so you're on your 7?
Okay, my number 7 is on your list as well. I'm sure it's Dark Souls.
Yeah, that's my number 4. Although it should be my number 1, but I've moved it down. I'm doing a John Denton let's mix things up on my list day.
Cool. Well,
what do you want to do?
We can. Yeah, no. Well, hold on. We'll wait until we get to later on.
Okay, I'm interested to hear what you think about it. Right, so then let's jump on to my 6, which I'm sure is on your list. It's Destiny.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, where's that on your
5.
list? Right, should we wait for that? Let's.
It's close enough. Let's just fucking do it.
Right. Okay. So I feel that I've missed out on the party here. I feel that there's like a gate or a fence to climb over, and all my mates have climbed over it, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm in this fucking brilliant field," and I'm still like by the side of the road waiting to get in, because I didn't get the chance to play it a lot. I was away for the weekend that it was out proper, and I got to play it just quickly before I left, and quickly after I come back. And I feel as though I haven't experienced what makes it good, because right now it seems like a Game Loft version of Halo. In terms of combat, anyway, forget all the the open worldness and the co-op play and stuff like that. In terms of the combat itself, the enemies weren't inspiring, the weapons weren't really inspiring either, and the voiceover stuff was bad, and when I played one cooperative match, it was like Hardpoint or Conquest, that sort of game mode, and I just kind of thought, well, if this is a big part of this game, if the competitive stuff, if that's a big part of Destiny, then it needs to be as good as the Halo re-releases that are coming out at the end of the year, if not better. And it wasn't. It just wasn't. Like, it didn't feel fun to play. But I'm being told by everyone that I respect in the world that I'm completely wrong, and that this is actually amazing.
That's it. I mean, I wouldn't say that the multiplayer is going to be. I don't think that's where anyone will spend the majority of their time. I mean,
I think you're right.
I think that's a good point. I mean, for that to be up against Halo is almost certainly going to win, especially with 100 maps and whatnot. I mean, I played multiplayer as well, and it was the 3-point capture thing. And players that I was playing against a team of 6 players who were all playing together, and they clearly worked out that there was some kind of auto-aiming sniper rifle that they all had. So it was one of the most hellish experiences I've ever played, because I spawned death non-stop. And I just kept encountering people doing that. But yeah, it felt like a decent stab at another Halo, but not really. I don't really know who wants that, especially with that massive pack on the way. But yeah, it's the other stuff. It's the stuff we did cooperatively. I mean, you weren't doing it for that long, but I was loving that. Going on raids and stuff. And the problem with the alpha is that it's a lot of stuff's unclear. I mean, sometimes when I was playing with people, I died and then it sent me back like 2 minutes walk away. Sometimes it would respawn me right there. Sometimes you had to wait to respawn, and sometimes you didn't. And almost all of the missions, bar a couple that I did, were just like kill a load of people. But then
did you find the combat fun? Because I just thought it was, it didn't feel as though I was doing anything really. It was okay. There was the one bit where the eyeball showed up, and that was pretty cool. But the rest of it, they were just generic looking enemies doing generic things and being shot with generic weapons. It didn't feel like, when you're playing Halo and you're in the midst of a battle, there's like lasers and fucking bright coloured bullets flying about, and there's that. You can manipulate enemies to do certain things. You can flank them and all sorts, and it didn't feel as though this had that. But again, I just wasn't getting it, because, as I said, like, everyone else is saying how amazing it is.
It's difficult. It completely got me. I was just like, I can't wait for this game. Although,
what was it? What got you? What about it got you?
It felt. I mean, I think John mentioned this last week. It's got a very, very helpful, overly helpful auto aim as default. So if you turn that off, you're going to have a lot more fun, because it was slightly ridiculous to have that much of a severe auto aim on, but. I don't know. It's more the prospect of the game, just how fluidly it works, how vast. That first proper mission that you go on, where there's that like a wizard, or what's he called? Where you end up with
the wizard,
big, and then there's that big spider thing, and I just thought that was great. I did it with Matt because I think you had to shoot off. And I don't know. The idea of getting stuck into that world and just doing missions that are as epic as that. At the moment, I'm worried about the vast majority of missions that would just kill a load of things, because if even half of the missions are like that, that's a real missed opportunity. And I hope that they don't go down that road. But
well, this is it. The most interesting thing of the alpha that I saw was the hub world. It reminded me a lot of Phantasy Star Online. And if the idea is, look, you meet in this hub world, you level up and you buy new equipment and stuff, and then you go out as your team to this, massive world and do things together, then, that sounds brilliant. It does sound brilliant. I didn't get to that point in the alpha. I didn't have enough time to put into it to get anywhere with it and get a real grasp of what the game was actually wanting you to do. So I feel bad for passing an opinion on it. Don't listen to me because I haven't put enough time into it. But I just wasn't grabbed straight away, and that was a shame.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, the thing is, it is what many people have said it is. It is Halo meets Borderlands, but I mean, it's about as good as it feels like. I mean, again, it feels like the alpha's a test. The beta is going to be a lot more interesting because I presume you're going to be, it's going to be a lot larger. They've already said it's looking a lot better, but I'm excited more about what it suggested rather than what it is. Because at the end of the day, what the alpha was just a load of clear out missions. Aside from the some of the main ones, which were really, really great. But yeah, I am sort of very optimistic. I don't really understand why people seem to have a problem with the voiceover stuff. What was wrong with it?
Oh, it's bad, man. It is bad. It just seemed like I don't know. It just seems so layered on, and they put the grain on it that they do on Halo games. The filter, and it just. It seemed like no connection between the voice and what was going on screen. And during the competitive game modes, it sounded like placeholder stuff. Like it was like, you are winning the game. You are now in second place. It was like, all right, mate, fucking hell. Sort it out, cheer up a bit. It's no, with Halo, it's that big booming voice telling you what the fuck's going on. With this, it was just like it was Gary who, does the T and the voiceover placeholders. And then of course you had, what's the guy's name?
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, who's is it Dinkley or Dinklage?
Dinklage.
Oh right, okay. I don't know. I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I'm not. I'm not a big fan of this.
Neither do I, but I've seen him in other stuff.
All right. Well, I don't know. He just didn't. He's meant to be this really good actor, but I didn't believe a line he was saying. The only thing I believed about the line he was saying was that he wanted to get the fuck out of that studio. So that's that. I understand why people are upset about that. Absolutely.
I really, as soon as I heard his voice and he started talking in that really deliberate kind of theatrical way, I was like, I really like the sound. I kind of like how serious it is and that sort of distancing, because he's meant to be. Is it an AI? It's not meant to be a person talking to you, is it?
No, yeah, it's an AI. Yeah.
See, an actor of his caliber, I'm willing to sort of. I bet you it's the kind of thing that when the game comes up, people are going to really like about it, because it sounded like it was human but not quite, and I liked the overly pronounced way he was delivering it. So I mean, it might be awful. He might have literally taken the money, and he might come out and say, "I hate video games. I think they should all be shot in the head." But I have a feeling that it's his take on sort of an artificial intelligence. So I don't know.
You could be right. You could be right. And you remember people hated Stephen Merchant on Portal 2, and I thought that was amazing. Yeah, of course they did. Well, Stephen Merchant, those sort of people.
Wow.
But like, so yeah, I think you've got to see it properly in context. But from what I heard, it did sound like he couldn't be fucked.
Yeah, I suppose I can understand that. One other thing about, and it's actually, if you go onto our YouTube channel and look at the video I put up of the Destiny Alpha chat that John and Sam had last week, there's footage of when me, you and Matt were playing it, and me and Matt are trying to take down this enemy, and he sort of doubles back, circles around this pillar, and then, I mean, it's really like the AI, I was really getting a buzz from the way those enemies were behaving, and it's kind of like Halo 1 ways, because I think the Halo 1 AI never got better. They only chipped away at it, and they tried to make it more complex, but it made it less unpredictable. Whereas here, I was like, wow, I think these enemies are going to be really, really quite special. But there are too many of them at points. Even when there was 4 people, it seemed like there was 50 enemies just thrown at you. But yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a question mark, but I'm really encouraged by.
Put it this way. If anything, this alpha has really encouraged me to sit down and get into the beta when that comes out. Once that comes out, I'll be downloading that and really hammering it to sort of try and find the magic in there. And no doubt we'll all be buying the game on PlayStation 4, Chet.
Well, I'm. My hands are tied in that regard, which is annoying. But maybe, I don't know, who knows. I'd rather play it on. I'd rather play almost everything on PlayStation, to be honest. But that's unfortunately, I have friends who are arseholes, so that can't happen. Okay, well, that was your number
6.
My number 6 is also on your list as well. I'm sure it's Watch Dogs.
That's my number 1. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's leave it till then.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5 is Battlefield Hardline.
Oh yeah, it's my number 4. So let's do that.
Right, so we've got to talk about Battlefield Hardline, I think, because I think we're going to come from 2 completely different directions. Now, you're a massive Battlefield fan, like, you know, and I like the game. I think you should probably start off with your opinions on this, because you're far more educated on this development team than I am.
Well, yeah, I don't have a massive amount to say, except that I really like what I've played, and I've played quite a lot of the beta. I like the fact that it seems to have poached some systems from Homefront, which is a game that I was almost alone in absolutely loving, especially in multiplayer. I like the fact that in Hardline you can buy equipment as you go through the game, and you can earn perks as you play. Both of those feel like they were inspired by systems in Homefront, and I'm all for that. And it does feel, I mean, this is, again, I haven't played quite enough of it to be able to fully get a grasp on what's different just in terms of the way the game plays, but the physics feel slightly off, not in a bad way. I mean, they just feel different. And I am definitely not sure about heist mode. I don't see how that can sort of evolve into anything compelling unless they change it quite drastically. But Blood Money is an excellent mode. Perhaps not original. I'm sure versions of that have been done in other games, but it feels the perfect fit for a Battlefield game. The differences between, say, this and Battlefield 4 are not particularly galvanising, but then this is part of a series. That's kind of part of the point. It's another Battlefield game. The beta seems like it exists solely to sort of reassure people that it is a Battlefield game, which is weird because nobody really needed that. What we want to know is the campaign going to... This is the first time in a Battlefield game the campaign is the real selling point. I mean, the campaign sounds stupendously good, so it seems weird that this such a publicised beta to reassure people that this is definitely Battlefield. People, I want to know more about the campaign, although they wouldn't release a beta for that. But anyway, perhaps I was always destined to like it because it's Battlefield, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. You know, I love the way Battlefield plays, and this plays brilliantly. There's no slowdown, no getting booted to the dash. That's a good sign, and stuff like that. It works really well. I don't like it, and my opinions on this is solely based on the beta and the multiplayer. I haven't seen the single player. I haven't seen the full multiplayer or whatever. But from what I've played so far, what makes this cops and robbers, other than you being called a cop or being called a robber? Why is this a cops and robbers game? I don't understand that at all. It feels like a Battlefield. I mean, it feels like these two modes could be in Battlefield as DLC or whatever. I don't understand. There's nothing that makes it feel like you're a cop when you're playing. You won't even on what was it, Blood Money? You don't even particularly know what team you're on, other than you're getting in a police car instead of a normal car. Do you know what I mean? Police still running around with grenades and rocket launchers, and you know, getting into helicopters with massive machine guns. Why would a policeman run over to some money, grab it and put it in their van? You know, it's stupid stuff, right? Because this isn't plot based at all. I totally get that, but when I'm playing a cops and robbers multiplayer game, I want to feel like either a cop or a robber. I don't want to feel like I'm playing Battlefield with, police scribbled over, an army tank. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's nothing about this that sets it aside from Battlefield, and I think and this is, I don't usually get like this. I'm not an entitled person, but I think after what all of DICE's fans went through with Battlefield 4, maybe this should not be coming out for £60, and maybe. Either this should not have been coming out for £60, or a lot more should have been made to separate this from the back. I mean, even the kill screens are exactly the same as Battlefield, and a lot of the sound effects sound exactly the same. It looks exactly the same. The feel of the game is exactly the same. It feels as though these are two modes that were built for Battlefield 5, and they thought, we could probably eke out another game between the two. And to me, the game's going to be amazing. I've got full faith in DICE and the Battlefield world for it to be a very good game, and that's fine. I don't think I'm going to buy it because I just kind of think I find it a bit like, all right, lads, don't take the piss now. You know what I mean?
It is a difficult one. I've heard a lot of people describing it as a mod as well, and that's a difficult call because we need to, saying that is all well and good, but knowing exactly what the package. I mean, this is why I think it's weird that this is to reassure people that it's a Battlefield game. It couldn't have been anything else with the Battlefield brand attached to it. But what I'm hoping is that there are going to be some smaller objective type games. 4 of you have to rob a bank, 4 of you have to stop. I was kind of hoping they haven't announced it, but I thought that the way the campaign was going to work is that when you do go and perform these robberies, there will be people online who are playing as police that have to stop you from doing. I feel like Visceral's input is going to be a bit more elaborate than just giving us another Battlefield game in multiplayer. But hey, maybe it is just Battlefield 5. The only way to know whether it isn't is what they do with the other multiplayer modes, especially with smaller teams. If there's like sort of cooperative, 5v5.
Well, that's what I thought this was. I thought 4 of you would grow into a bank.
Yeah,
it'd be full of civilians. Police will turn up like a little bit later. And I just there was a moment where I started off with all the police, and I was on the police side, and we all rushed to our police cars, and we all left the station at the same time. And I thought, fucking hell, this feels brilliant. Like my whole police team are shooting off to this location. And then the moment you sort of exit that, you're in Battlefield. And it's like you're not a police team anymore. You're not working together as a police force. You're not trying to arrest people or trying to deal with civilians or anything. You're shooting at robbers. You're trying to kill them. You're trying to throw a grenade in. There's no fault. There's no change in fault. And you're playing like a soldier. You're not playing like a policeman or a robber. And that's sad. That feels like a missed opportunity to me. Because I feel if anyone can make a really decent cops versus robbers game, it's those guys. And it just kind of feels like they've slapped a sticker on it and said, right, no, this is what's different about that game. It's just it doesn't sit right with me. And as I said, not entitled, but we went through a lot of shit after paying a lot of money for their Battlefield 4 games, and to put this out now, you just kind of think maybe it should have been maybe a £20 game, or at least if you own Battlefield 4, you can download Hardline for massively discounted price or something. You know what I mean? It's so it's an odd one. It's an odd one, but you can't judge it yet. It's a beta, and we haven't seen what the full content's like, and we haven't seen the single player at all. So.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's totally the thing. Wrong. I mean, but it is. As I said again, it is very strange that after that first trailer leak that seemed so interesting and so fresh, that they've come out and said, "Hey guys, remember this is still a Battlefield game," which is not a reassurance that anyone particularly needed. But I have enjoyed playing Blood Money a fuck of a lot. I really think it's a really a perfect gameplay mode for Battlefield. And some of the stuff I've seen, I mean, when you can sort of buy grappling hooks, I spawned on these two guys who were grappling between buildings up above the point, one of the objective points, and they were hurling gas grenades down and then parachuting in, and one of them was staying up the... I mean, they were doing some really cool stuff. Again, it's like Battlefield. You can do things like that in certain maps of Battlefield, but some of the new tools are going to be really exciting to mess around with. So I don't know. It's like Destiny. At this stage, it can only be a big question mark, but I'm encouraged nonetheless.
Right, that was my number 5, Battlefield Hardline. Then done.
Okay, all right. That was my number 4. Destiny's my number 5. So
right, so it's back to me. Let's get into the Dark Souls chat then.
All right.
Okay, so let me just explain where I'm up to. I finished the game this weekend, and it was one of those amazing feelings where I haven't had it for a long time, right? Where you've had like you've got like a part. It wasn't even right. The final boss isn't particularly hard. It only took me about 3 or 4 attempts, but because of the journey, the game took me 55 hours to complete, and by the end of it, I was shaking, and that was just really weird. My palms were sweaty, and I was shaking because I knew that I was so close to the end. And I sat down at about 11 o'clock to play it, and I thought, well, let me finish this last area off, then I'll get to the point where I'm going to fight the final boss, and then I'll stop there. But I just couldn't stop. I had to finish it off that night, and by the end of it, I felt this massive sense of achievement, and just, I suppose it was like the end of a buzz, really, because I went straight back in and played it again. Like I started a new character, and it was amazing, and just to see the world from the start of the game again. Really happy I played it, and really excited to have finished it, and I'm already thinking about jumping onto the second one, even though I said I wouldn't. I'd wait until it comes out on PS4 or whatever, but it's looking like I might have to break a little bit earlier. But I've been saying to you for ages, I just want to hear what you think of it. You should play it, and you did.
Yeah, I did. I mean, the thing is, I played this. I reviewed it when it came out, and I played it for an untold number of hours. I don't know, in the grand scheme, how far in I got, but I spent a hell of a lot of time with it, and yeah, I downloaded it. It's free with Games with Gold. I don't know whether that's still... I think it's still available. Actually, no, it's not.
No, it's not. No, yeah, they stopped it a while ago.
You missed the boat if that's gone. I don't think there's a more intimidating game to revisit, bearing in mind what's been written and spoken about it, how people feel about it, and it's an incredibly daunting thing to go back to.
When you say intimidating, do you think in terms of the difficulty setting, or in terms of the pressure to like it?
Well, maybe it's a bit of the latter, but yeah, it's the difficulty, and it's just the world is so overpoweringly bleak, and I'd forgotten about that. As soon as it starts, it's really incredibly full on. And I'd forgotten all of that, and I'd also forgotten that the game essentially starts with a boss that you're supposed to run away from. And I spent, I reckon, somewhere around 90 minutes attempting to beat this boss with this broken sword that I had, and I just couldn't even remember this happening. I vaguely remembered teleporting above him or falling off that ledge that once you go around him, but for some reason, I think it was quite sunny, so it was quite bright in the room in the evening, and I couldn't see the little hidden door that you have to run to, even though there's messages on the floor saying run around. So when I was texting you about it, I was furious, and I was just like, how the fuck can people waste their time playing this game? I think anybody who plays this game should join the army, because if you spend this much time... I was furious, but it was... I think
the exact quote, Chet, was, "It's a game for cunts."
I didn't say that. Isn't that what you said to me?
No,
hold on a minute. I could have sworn you said that to me.
No, why would I say that to you? I completed it, you knobhead.
I could have sworn you said that. Okay, maybe I did say that, but I'm telling you, I was fucking angry, having spent 90 minutes trying to kill a boss with this smashed up old sword. Yeah. I really was not happy about it. But that's what Dark Souls is. It's the puzzles. You basically die first and work backwards in a lot of instances. You have to. You're presented with insurmountable odds, and you have to figure your way around them. That did not put me on the greatest, I played for a little bit beyond that, and I got to the point where I actually did kill the boss, and then I got to the point where you start up the top, and there's a guy sat there, and you save at the bonfire. I literally got to that point where that's where, from my very, very vague recollection, where the game actually properly begins.
That's right. Yeah.
Everything else is basically a tutorial. I was still angry when I turned it off at that point, but I am getting, I do want to go back and see how I get on, because it is an incredibly strange and unique thing. But if the first thing that happens in it makes me want to kill somebody, I don't know how the rest of the game is going to.
It's funny because I went back and read some of my tweets from when I first started properly playing it in January, and I was going through the same thing. I hated everything. I hated that first thing. How was I supposed to know I was supposed to run past this demon? I hated the fact that I went down the wrong way and got killed by some skeletons in a graveyard. How was I supposed to know not to go that way? And the game's sort of set up like that, and I think that's one of the worst aspects of the game. It's one of the things that I don't like. But it did teach me to start reading up on the game a little bit more before just jumping in and saying, okay, where should I be going first? Let me find that out. Now, usually a game should be telling you where to go, and I still maintain that this game should give you more of a direction on where to go. But then once you start reading it away from the game, you start thinking about the game away from it as well. And I think that's where it got its claws into me, because every time I would turn it off, I would either be reading about what I'd just done or what I needed to do next, and then for some reason conditioned my brain to just constantly think about it. So every time I got killed by an enemy, I was turning it off and then thinking, nah, if I dash past him and try that might work. So I would find myself turning it off in anger and then rebooting it within 10 minutes. That would happen a lot, especially during the opening moments. But once there really does feel like there's it's a bit, I suppose, a bit like Destiny. There's this fence again, and once you get over it, you suddenly realise that it's brilliant. If you know what I mean, like at first you get bitter at it and you get angry with it and you get fed up of people telling you it's brilliant when you're clearly not enjoying it. And the first 5 to 10 hours aren't enjoyable because you're getting your ass kicked constantly. But then slowly, once you get over that fucking fence, man, it is just like it does something to you that just grabs you and you have to keep playing it. It's brilliant. It's like. I like to say it's like no other game, but it isn't. I've been addicted to other games before, and I've enjoyed other games as much as I have this. But yeah, once you get past this sort of barrier of hating the game, you do realise that this is why people think this is game of the generation and why it's changed gaming pretty much forever now, because people are going to look to that in terms of gameplay and challenge and stuff like that, as sort of landmark for action games like that. And yeah, I think I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't blame you if you gave up, because the other thing about the game is that it's a huge time commitment. As I said, 55 hours to complete it. That I don't put that into games anymore. Like I haven't done that since probably Mass Effect 2. It's very rare that I give a game that amount of time. Unless it's FIFA, of course. But yeah, I was happy to do so in here. And as I said, when I finished it, I started up with a new character. And Dark Souls people will know this. There's a bell that you ring. That's like your first challenge is to ring this bell. It took me about 5 or 6 hours to do that the first time. I did it last night in 40 minutes. Because you know the game so well, you know where you're going and how to kill certain enemies. The challenge, you've sort of got over that challenge now, and you fly through it. It's insane.
Yeah, it's,
keep at it.
I am going to. I'm not going to hurry it. When the game came out, it was in my. I can't remember if we were doing this show that year, because I remember when at work I compiled my list and it was like number 3 or something in my favourite games of the year. So I did. I was madly in love with it. And the thing is, the strange thing about it is that games that force you to fail. That kill you and then make you have to go and figure out either you either have to apprehend a trap that you didn't know, all that stuff. We spoke about it last time you were on with that Deadlight trashed, which just is just non-stop. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You should have seen this coming. You couldn't go and do it again. Something about Dark Souls is the apprehensiveness is part of the game. You have to be incredibly cool. I don't know. I remember being as excited as everyone else when I was playing it, but it came out when there were that I remember that period. I don't think there's ever been a period when that many AAA games have come out. There was like 3 every Friday for about 3 or 4 months, and I had to review all of them, and I just had no time. So I do remember being as into it as everyone else, but I don't know. I'm gonna continue though. It
made me feel like a kid again, and when I finished it, it felt like the time that I finished Zelda Ocarina of Time, and it's like, you know, that was a big moment when I was a kid, because I very rarely finished games, and I suppose as an adult I very rarely finished games like that, especially ones of that much challenge and that long, but so it reminded me, it sort of sent me back. And all I'll say, the only advice I give is that if you do go back into it, don't be afraid to read up FAQs or watch videos of areas that you're about to go to, because otherwise you're just going to drive yourself mad with the bullshit that Dark Souls brings. You know, the whole, oh, we don't tell you this, you've got to work it out yourself. Now, fuck off. That stuff's not fun. So clue yourself up a little bit before running headfirst into it, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot more. Yeah, but Dark Souls 2 now, that come out not too long ago, so...
Have they actually confirmed it for PS4?
No, I'm just stubborn. And not only that, it feels weird like booting up my 360 now, because I've got to use the wired controller because it's the only one that actually works. And those wired controllers are not great for... I don't want to get into it, but my wife has ruined the cable. It's like completely twisted and shit. It angers me. And I want to stream things. Wouldn't it be brilliant? Oh, I wish I could stream it, because that looks like so much fun. It's the perfect game to do that. But yeah, you can't do that on 360. The fuck?
No, you can't. I'm sure Dark Souls 2 is on... I'm sure it's 100 times better than the Dark Souls 1. But man, the download, I don't remember it being that sketchy on a disc. But the download 360 version of Dark Souls is like sketchy as a motherfucker. Anytime anything sort of happens, it's chugs.
Oh, that's a known thing. On the 360, it runs like shit, and there are areas in the game where it gets worse. The frame rate is absolutely disgraceful. It's really bad. Yeah, it's just a shame, but it was supposedly really good on the PS3. Cool. All right. That was my number 4.
Okay, so my number 4 was Battlefield Hardline.
We've done that. So my number 3 is a 3DS game that no one even noticed came out. It's called Inazuma 11 Go. I played the Shadow version. Have you heard of Inazuma 11?
I can't remember if it was on the Wii or it was on the DS, but yeah, a few years ago I played one, and yeah, it was unusual, but not bad. Yeah, so it's a Japanese RPG set around football, and it's off the wall, insane, like it's crazy, but not without being endearing. You know, it's not trying to be crazy; it just is, and you'll probably like it because of it. So you play as this kid that starts this football school, and he soon finds out that competitive football is all predetermined and rigged. And as I said, who likes a predetermined and rigged sport? It's not a sport. It's rubbish. If you like that, you're an idiot. You've got a battle to try and legitimise football again, and it's all localised brilliantly with regional British accents. And there's lines in it like, "Please don't do that. You'll make football sad." Stuff like that. It's just full of weird shit. The gameplay is broken down into your usual running around like you do in these JRPGs, but this actually looks beautiful. Like some of the settings and that look absolutely incredible. The only problem is there's no sort of real point to running about. There's no sort of fucking hell. I can't talk. My brain's just gone to sleep.
That's really weird. Words have just dropped out of my head, and there's no real goal to exploration or anything like that. You'll get a bit bored of that pretty quickly. And the gameplay itself seems all a bit. It doesn't seem as tactical as it wants to be, if that makes any sense. Right. Like the tactics behind it simply, are you leveled up enough? If you are, you will win this game of football. If not, you will not. And you can train each player up and boost their stats and stuff, but the mini games are crap. They're not really challenging or anything. So it's fun enough to push you through, because the story is quite sweet and the characters are quite funny. But as a game itself, it falls flat, and that's a shame really, because it kind of feels like a bit of a missed opportunity.
You said it was a shadow edition. There's another version of it?
Yeah, they've got light and shadow. It's basically like Pokemon Red and Blue. There are certain players that you can hire in this version of the game that you can't in others, and this, vice versa. It makes no difference to story, and the game feels exactly the same. So it doesn't matter which version you pick up, but you're probably not going to pick it up anyway because you haven't heard of it, and I'm not exactly selling it to you right now. Weird. It's very strange because it would have been so easy to make a very serious football game, and they've gone against that, which obviously runs in the series. I mean, there's been 3 Inzuma 11 games before this, and a animated cartoon based around the game. So they weren't going to change it for this one, but I like the direction that it goes in, and I like how silly it is and how stupid the characters are and how dumb their lines are and all that sort of stuff. But it's just not got enough there for it to be an out-and-out recommendation for me. It's quite long as well. It overstays its welcome.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like 25 hours, something like that.
Those games must sell reasonably well for them to keep being released over here.
They've got... Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand why. I've never heard anyone talk about them. Never heard anyone talk about them. In fact, the first time I'd heard of the game was when Spong emailed me and said, "Do you want to play this?" And I had to look it up. I had no idea what it was. So yeah, odd.
That's weird. I think the first time I got sent one, which was 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, and I was just like, "What the hell is this?" And I remember thinking it was perfectly fine. It made no real impression on me at all. But then again, I'm sure it was the DS. Yeah,
I think it was.
There was no localized dialogue. It was all text boxes and stuff. So it was not something that made a massive impression. But
but even the text boxes are written in regional accents. One character's written in Geordie, and then there's a French guy, and it's written as a French accent would sound and stuff like that, and all that stuff is just because not everything's spoken word in this. There's a lot of writing, but every now and then you do hear the accents, and it's just I don't know. That stuff is just amazing. Nintendo localizing games for the 3DS has been something that's always been really good. Well, with any game that they bring out over here that's distinctly Japanese, they localize them really well, and
they do.
This is just about as good as it gets for that.
Yeah, no, I mean they're unsung, the people that localize video games anyway. But the guys or the girls or the guys, I'd love to be really interested to know if it's a team of people or whether that's a workload for one person. But
yeah.
Whoever or the people that they use to localize their games are fantastic. I mean, the last one that really impressed me, I think, was the Fire Emblem, and I only played the demo. But you just like, wow, they've made it feel. It still feels completely Japanese, but they've made it feel really sort of regional English. Weird. I mean, very talented at what they do, and they don't really get any credit for it.
No, they don't. I don't, and it's a shame because, I mean, it must be so hard. I can't imagine how hard it is to do that, to take that, translate it to English, and then, regionalise everything like that.
And properly give it character.
Yeah, real character. I mean, that's the best way of describing it. They really do give it character.
Yeah, okay, well, I doubt I'll play it, but...
I wouldn't bother.
Okay. So that was your number
3.
Okay. My number 3 is a game called Blue Estate on the PlayStation 4. Have you heard of this?
No, although you did mention it to me the other day, and I looked it up, and it's what's it based on, a comic strip?
A series of comic books, yeah. Which I hadn't heard of, but I had to look into. Anyway, I played it today. I finished it in pretty much one sitting. I was kind of apprehensive because the PR blurb described it as darkly funny. And whenever I read something like that, I'm just like, call it a dark comedy if you want, or say that it's darkly humorous. But the word funny implies success automatically. It's telling me that it's amusing, which I have to say, the game in no shape or form is amusing in the slightest. When you start the game, there's a disclaimer at the very beginning that points out that everyone involved, every character in this game is reprehensible and they're awful and they're not to be confused with heroes of any kind. And it seems like somebody trying to apprehend some kind of an upset, because the first thing that happens is a naked woman parades around a strip pole in leather fetish gear. And I'm pretty sure that literally every female in the game is a stripper. Which, regardless of whether you find it offensive or you find it funny or whatever, it's just fucking boring. It's just incredibly tedious. And actually, the game kind of purports to play around with the tropes of film noir. And at the beginning, the woman in the fetish gear is described as being a femme fatale, but femme fatales don't tend to be dumb strippers. That's completely the exact opposite of what a femme fatale is. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is based on a series of comic books, which I'd never heard of. And actually, if you go to the game's official website, there are a few samples, a few pages from some of these books. And I think the game appears to be an accurate representation of them, because it looks really great at times, but the writing is witless and really quite juvenile and completely uninteresting as far as I'm concerned. I shouldn't really judge because I've only looked at a few panels and a few pages from these books, but not particularly inspiring stuff, I have to say. This is a rail shooter. It's basically a light gun game, but you use the PS4 pad's gyroscope. For some reason, is PlayStation Move even compatible with PS4?
I don't know. I mean, I think it is, because that bloody joust game on Sports Friends that works with Move, but that's out on PS3, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, it seems like a natural fit for the Move wand, but once you get used to the controls, it's actually quite a good scheme, quite a good fit for a light gun game like this. The story is just a load of nonsense. It's narrated by this schlubby, fat private eye guy, and the game is nothing but stereotypes. I mean, most of the time you're fighting Asian villains, and they're either screaming guys with machetes, or they're men in suits and sunglasses shooting, or they're guys in bandanas and sportswear and stuff. The humour is kind of tame and obvious at the same time. I mean, I don't want to invoke the Fast Show character Colin Hunt again, because we did it 2 weeks ago, but if you put Colin Hunt Fast Show into YouTube and watch a clip of Colin Hunt, that is the level of the humour that we're dealing with. It's not funny in the slightest. And, you know, it's stuff like captions come up to introduce bad guys, and it'll say so-and-so is a henchman, blah, blah, blah. He's a huge fan of the Hoff, and that passes for a joke. And there's a bit where you stand in Chihuahua pheromones, and throughout the whole rest of the game, dogs just start humping your leg. That sounds amusing. It's not really. You're just permanently getting humped on the leg by dogs. And the other
huge fan of the Hoff.
The Italian-American sort of mobsters that you play as part. You play as a couple of characters, but you're part of the mob basically, and they're all dumb, and sadly the characters that you play as never shut up. So it's just they're always talking to people. The dialogue's inane. Come on, boss, let's sleep in dogs, be bygones. The boss ain't gonna like this one. It's absolute stereotypes, not amusing in the slightest. But anyway, despite all of that stuff, despite how completely, basically, to cut a long story short, this is a property that doesn't deserve a game this decent. And it's actually better than decent in spots. I really rather enjoyed it. It's a slick. I mean, to look at it, if you look at screenshots or footage, it looks like that Rambo game from a few months ago, which was bordered on being okay, but sort of shot itself in the foot later on. The game's very easy. If you do it on normal, it's very easy. As soon as you're about to get shot, there's this decreasing yellow circle, so you're given so much time to kill who you need to kill. And it's all about building your multiplier. So, I mean, if you want a challenge, I'd go on a higher difficulty, but the normal's fine. Reload is left trigger, but it's also a cover button sometimes, because occasionally you can jump into cover. And also enemies can shoot cover away. You know, it's got the standard stuff. You shoot collectibles, you shoot these little badges that turn everything into slow-mo, so you can jump over tables and shoot people in slow motion. And like that Rambo game, there are some really neat ideas. There's these sort of bombs that you see periodically on walls. You shoot them once to arm them and then shoot them again to detonate them. You can also, there's bits where you have to operate cranks with the touchpad at the same time as shooting and making sure you don't get shot. And then there's bits where it goes bang, the next 4 enemies, you have to shoot them in a specific order. But you know, it's tiny little things, but they're actually really, really, for a light gun game, they're really quite inventive and they really do work. There's also a sort of melee touchpad. You use the touchpad to pick up health and ammo. You'll see health, and if you're quick enough, if you swipe to the left or the right, you'll grab that. And also this system where if you jump over a table, your hair will cover the screen, so you have to flick up to get rid of your hair out of the way, which is it's not a bad idea. You can slam doors in people's faces and whack people, you know, before melee attacks. One thing that's odd is the controller needs constant calibration, and that's part and parcel of getting used to the game. You have to hit L1 and it will recenter the because when I started playing it, I was ending up literally, my hands were 90 degrees away from the TV and I was playing as if I was facing the wall. So you have to keep, once you get understand it, it's weird. It's like it's a PC game and you're recentering a mouse, and it forgot that this isn't a mouse game. So you have to constantly press L1 to bring the target reticule back to the center of the screen. That's really weird. I mean, whether they change that or not, and also once you've calibrated at the beginning, there's nowhere in the menus to go and recalibrate it, so I had to figure that out on my own. If that happens to you, you're liable to find it very, very frustrating. I mean, the game goes on for a little bit too long. It's only about 4.5 hours long. It took me about 4.5 hours. There's a level in the sewers which is so boring, and it goes on for so long, and that's a point at which I can imagine people throwing the towel in. But the levels after that just get better and better and better. I just think it's fantastically entertaining, really, honestly. I mean, I wasn't expecting, because everything that it did in the opening hour just wound me up, and I just thought it was really quite rubbish. But I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to play it more when friends of mine pick it up, because there are leaderboards as well. So yeah, unexpectedly, it's really quite good. I mean, you have to be a fan of shooters, but really surprised.
Do you have to know the subject matter at all, or does it do a good enough job explaining it?
The plot's fucking rubbish. I mean, it's nonsense. It's you know, the guy that created it is clearly a very talented artist. The artwork is really nice looking. But, you know, mobsters are fucking stupid, and there's Japanese triad guys, and there's a stripper at the centre of it all, and there's a shady private detective. I mean, it's cliche upon cliche upon cliche, and it's fucking boring. You're just like, I would never, ever read a comic book, one of these. This has not sold the comic book to me at all, but that's why I said, the game, the comic doesn't deserve a game this good, because it might sell some copy. I mean, I shouldn't judge because I've only read a few bits and pieces of the comics, but yeah, you don't need to know anything. I think it's £12 on PlayStation Network to download, and
quite a lot. Oh, you know, this has got PS Plus written out all over it, hasn't it?
Possibly, that's definitely a possibility. But
for an on the rails shooter that lasts 4 hours, yeah, I'd say that's quite a bit. It's really polished, and I'm definitely going to go and play it again. And I don't know, it's got the balance right where it just hurls. If you keep your multiplier going, I finished a level and I had like 16 million points, and I always like games that I don't know. Give you too many points of it.
No, but really properly reward you for, because it's not that easy to keep your multiplayer going, but. But the shooting is really satisfying. The control scheme is really tight. They actually made it work really well. I'm sure it'd be better with a move thing if they actually patch that in at some point. But this is definitely, if ever a game was going to end up being a cult game, purely for just the quality of the core gameplay, this is a good contender. Even though it's just so I wish it was just the levels, and everything else with the fucking crap with the stripper. Rubbish, all that stuff's crap, but the game is it reminded me of the House of the Dead that came out on the Wii, that fantastic black comedy, which was actually, that's legitimately
Overkill,
fun.
Right?
That's right. That was funny, well written. This is nothing of the kind. There are no laughs in this. It's trying for laughs every 5 seconds. It's a comedy in every sense because it's like bang, 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 laugh, laugh, laugh. I don't think I even cracked a smile because it's so Colin Hunt-esque. We're crazy here. But yeah, anyway.
That was a great Colin Hunt impression.
I'll stick a clip of him at the end of the podcast for anyone who's not aware of him. But I'm telling you, it's really, really good. I think it's worth the asking price, definitely. If you could
get the one clip where he does say, "Whoa, it's crazy here," that would be great.
I think that was on the deleted scenes. It would take me ages to find it.
All right, fair enough. I'll let you off. Right, okay. My number 2 then is FIFA 14 by EA Sports. I don't know if you've noticed, but they released a free download for the next-gen versions of FIFA that introduced the World Cup side of things to the game in a ridiculous... because I'm an idiot, I hoped it was basically the FIFA World Cup game patched into the next gen as a cheeky thank you for early adopting in next gen FIFA. It is not that. It is another way to peddle fucking fake packs of cards at you.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can play against another person in a FIFA World Cup setting, but it doesn't feel as though it's FIFA World Cup at all. It feels like it's FIFA 14, but you're just playing with international teams instead of clubs, although you can do that anyway. It kind of just makes you go through a different menu system to get there, so that was a bit of a letdown. There's no online FIFA World Cup as such, although the new Ultimate Team based around the World Cup is the basic setup of a World Cup tournament. You know, you got the group stages and the knockouts. Ultimate Team, not a massive fan. It's too fiddly for me. It gets on my fucking nerves. I don't want to have to keep applying cards to existing players to make sure that they're fit for the next game. This one really does take the piss in terms of giving you enough coins to buy new packs. I'd had 12 games before I was able to buy a new pack. I opened up the new pack and looked at the cards that I was given and thought, fuck this. I'm not going to play anymore. But I did put a lot of time into FIFA after I played it. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Really love FIFA. I think it's brilliant. But the reason why I brought this up, really, because, you know, I haven't got much to tell you other than, you know, there's not much to the free download that they gave you, was that I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice to combine FIFA with Inazuma 11 and just for 1 year, instead of bringing out FIFA, or maybe instead of bringing out like a tournament thing, they brought out FIFA RPG, where it's the whole thing is based around, you don't play as Man United, you don't play as Chelsea, you can't hire players. What you do is you go to like Sunday league matches and you can flick between matches and you can pick players and create a Sunday league team, and you've got to try and get them working together, and all sorts of stuff goes off the pitch that you've got to deal with. And the idea is to take a Sunday league team up through the divisions and into the Premier League. Now, I know people do that with, say, like they'll take hold of, Shrewsbury or Torquay or something like that and try and take them through to the Premier League. And that's cool, but it's always the same end goal. You're hiring Wayne Rooney, like you're signing Wayne Rooney, bloody hell. You sit down and interview Wayne Rooney and offer him the job. No, you sign Wayne Rooney and like these big players to play for these small clubs and stuff like that. Well, whereas I'd like to have that feeling, because the cool thing about Inazuma is that you create a team out of these characters essentially, and then because you've got no relation with them in the real world, they're more personal to you. It's a little bit like Master League. With Master League, you have these players. You start off with players that are all randomly named. They're not based on any real players in the real world, and you become so much more attached to them because of that. I would love the FIFA franchise to create a sort of RPG game where you create a team and build a team and feel as though you're progressing, and it will put a little bit more weight behind the games. Playing Man United away in the FA Cup and stuff like that would just feel so much better if you're a crappy team that you've built yourself. And I think I don't know, I think it'd be an interesting concept. And they certainly seem to be doing this sort of stuff with their sports games lately. You have, Fight Night Champion, and NBA does a lot of stuff with Be a Pro. And although FIFA's got Be a Pro, it doesn't really have that same effect of building a team of characters that you can become personally related to. And yeah, I just want to see EA Sports do something with a twist now. Take the FIFA game as a game and then just do something different with it. Whether that be, I don't know, a sort of a futuristic football game or something stupid, or like an RPG type thing. Just something a little bit different. And I mean, they've got a basic game mechanic there. I don't know. I just want them to fuck around with things a little bit this generation, instead of just bringing out FIFA 14, 15, 16, 17. Something a little bit different.
Have you played the NBA 2K games?
No, I'm not a basketball fan. I'm not even going to try and pretend that I'd be interested, because I won't. I don't get the sport, and I won't like it. I know I won't like it, so I'm staying away from it. But,
okay. Well, I mean, I would be interested to see how they should take some pages out of that book, because those games, I don't like basketball either, but they really are terrific. I mean, they're basically RPGs, and as
John said, like, the football's not really based around, because with basketball you're constantly involved with the play as a player. With football, there'll be moments where you're just by the wing, standing by the wing, going, just watching the game go by, Yeah. Fucking hell! You can hear that.
What is that?
That's that's Battlefield Hardline going on outside my house. It's a chopper.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't like basketball, but those games are quite amazing, because all of those conversations that you'd have as a player, they reenact the whole draft situation, and then you get interviewed by different people, and you can be a dick, and yeah,
I'd love that. I'd love that in a football game.
Yeah,
I would love it.
Exactly. That's what. It's kind of curious that they haven't gone in that direction.
Well, the way around it is to not have you play as a player, not the Be a Pro stuff. It should be that you're the manager, and you can be a dick to the media from there, and this, that, and the other. It's got a management mode, obviously, but what I want is to be able to go to, watch Sunday League matches and see someone score an incredible goal, and then approach that player and build my team like that, and then suddenly start rising up the ranks. That'd be incredible. Yeah, I don't know. I hope we see a lot more inspiration from EA Sports next year. Although the way this generation the last generation has ended, I think they're hinting towards fucking things about a little bit more, which is exciting.
Well, I'm hoping that things are going to swing back to Pro Evo, because the most recent Pro Evo is so much better than the most recent FIFA. The last thing I did before I recorded this podcast was have a game of co-op seasons FIFA 14 with my friend Jay, and we played against a couple of guys using Real Madrid, and every single time they got the ball, through ball, it went through to
every time you say this, I say exactly the same thing.
What?
Who are you playing as?
Real Madrid.
Pick a lower team. Pick a championship side. Completely different game.
Is that what's going to happen though? Because I mean, at the end of the day, the other player in co-op seasons is running on. I mean, fair enough, but the fact that it always reaches them, they can be three defenders trying to muscle them off the ball.
Yeah, but when their stats are down, they can't control the ball as well. That's the first thing.
Right. Yeah, I know. Maybe you're right, but at the same time, it's just. There is something very satisfying about shooting from not far off the halfway line and getting it in the onion bag. That's really nice. And I don't know.
You're a very strange man.
I don't like football. That's the thing. I really don't have any time for football. I'm loving the World Cup at the moment, but I don't want to play a football game where I have to really work hard to try and score a goal. I want a goal fest, but at the same time, I don't want it, because I've had games on Pro Evo like that. I've had games on past FIFA games like that. But when lob through ball is 99% effective, the game's shit. The game is wank. I mean, admittedly, that those odds might go down if I pick a lesser team, but still, why should you have to do that? Why should you have to play with a bunch of bumbling fucks in order to enjoy the game?
Why would you want to play with Real Madrid all the time?
Because you could run Cristiano Ronaldo up the right-hand side and whip it in the top corners. Easy.
Fuck that. I'd rather be bumbling along with Danny Shittu, who's far too fat to be an actual football player.
But I don't. The thing is, I don't have to do anything to score those goals. They make it ridiculously easy. And that's one of the reasons why the game's so fucking annoying, is that you do a lob through ball and someone will get it. So it just becomes a game of tennis, basically, because as soon as you get possession, lob through ball, someone's there by their goal, ready to have a pop. I don't know. FIFA 14 is a wank game. I think it's...
You're wrong. You're wrong about that.
FIFA 12, I think that it really felt like a watershed. I was like, that tactical defending is really like bordering on being perfect. The gameplay just felt like they'd honed it to a point where they can only make it worse, and that's what they've done. I just think 13 was still excellent, but worse than 12, and 14, I'm just like, massive holes in it. It's massive holes in it. Yeah.
Nah.
Do you really think it's? I mean, have you not encountered that at all?
I love it. I think it's brilliant. The corners thing that you moan about constantly, I've never had a problem with that. In fact, actually, that happened to me quite badly a couple of weeks ago for the first time ever, and I thought, what the fuck? But usually nothing too bad. And I've never felt that the lob through balls are overpowered. But then again, as I say, I always play as Millwall, playing against teams like Leeds and whatever, and all sorts of other random lower teams, and it's always been pretty good.
All right,
Still, I'm not going to deny that Pro Evo is brilliant. Not brilliant, like it's an excellent game. I love it. Every time that comes down, we sit and play it. But yeah, I just love FIFA.
Well, I mean, we should play the World Cup. We should try one of the things we did at the last World Cup game. Me, John, and another friend took it in turns and passed the pad and tried to win the World Cup with like Heskey and someone else up front, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. It took a few hours, but like it was really entertaining. So I'll bring down the World Cup game when we see each other next month, and we should try and win the World Cup.
Do that.
Because the World Cup standalone game is very good. Okay, so that was your number 2, right?
That was my number 2. Yes, correct.
Okay, my number 2 is EA Sports UFC, EA UFC on the Xbox One. I assume you have not played this.
I haven't, no. Does it make you feel like a John Denton?
In what sense?
Like go around karate chopping people?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't quite make me feel like that. It's a strange game. This it does demand a lot of time, and I don't think it should be penalised for it. When I played the demo, it felt unduly intimidating, and I know that a lot of my friends who were almost certainly going to buy the game did not because of the demo, because they made it so overwhelmingly complicated. And if you're playing this and maybe you're not responding to it or you're having issues, something might help you, which I just did, and I think it made me think very much more highly of the game than a lot of other people, and I just wrote out my own notes. There are instructions on the website, and if you purchase the boxed version of the game, I'm sure there's instructions and sort of moves and whatnot in there, but I just wrote down very basic, like how to get out of a sort of takedown attempt, stuff like that. The very basics, and I had them next to me on a page, so whenever I was playing I could just glance at them, and that it helped me think more of the game knowing. But this is not a complicated game. What seems like the most complicated fighting game ever devised is nothing of the kind. It's so very clearly a game made by a bunch of people who specialise in making boxing games, and that's fine with me. I've been a huge boxing fan since I was a kid, and mixed martial arts is something that I really do like, but I don't quite obsess over in the same way I obsess over boxing, so it's fine with me. One of the weird things about it that the longer I played it, the weirder it became, is that it's almost entirely in real time. So rounds are very, very long. 5 rounds seem to. I don't know if it's exactly real time. It might be a little lower, but fights take quite a while, and that detracts from the realism because they'd be. The result of every one of the fights I've had would be death. Someone would be dead because you're just wailing on each other for a very lengthy period of time, and some of them are really gruesome. I mean, the fights are really bloody and it's very real, and the way they animate all that stuff and the way the blood's all over the canvas and stuff is very, very realistic. But even as a complete non-expert in mixed martial arts, I feel that there's something missing. I don't think anybody could deny that it never really even attempts to explore the intricacies of that sport at all. It's a boxing game with a couple of cursory nods to other systems that, I don't know, I was kind of excited by the prospect of something complicated. When I played the demo, it was intimidating and I was really worried about being able to grasp it fully, but I was kind of excited that they seemed to have been unapologetic in making it complicated, because the sport's incredibly complicated. There's all sorts of different disciplines and fighting styles and stuff, and it seemed like a decent stab, entirely based on the demo. And they've gone after the more casual player instead. So I don't know why they made that demo so intimidating. The tutorial is just, I dare say it will make. I dare say that sort of tutorial was to make people like John suspect that they'd nailed it. And the game is just not that. I mean, every single time I've picked it up, I've liked it more and more. But it's quite a meat-headed game. Anything that's not stand up and sparring is really thin. And yeah, I mean, John spoke yesterday about some of the people he'd spoken with who were on the development team, and they didn't really seem to understand the sport. And this is the game that they made. But having said that, I'm really enjoying it. It's basically a sort of slightly off-kilter fight night game, and I was ready for a new fight night. I've played it quite a bit online. Me and John had a few fights we put on YouTube, and yeah, it's. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it if I play it for a prolonged amount of time in like a month or two, but at the moment, like I said, every time I've picked it up, I've liked it even more than the last time. So it's good. It's just definitely not great.
It's weird. I don't know why they wouldn't have put more effort into a game that's based around a sport that everyone's going batshit for at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that so many people take as deadly seriously as John
Well, this
does.
is it. Do you think that? Do you think they were hoping to get away with it? I don't. That's
what's playing the tutorial. As I said, friends of mine who, people who, us, people who play games. We're waiting for something big. There's been a bit of a drought, and we're looking for the next big thing to go and spend money on. And a lot of my friends were waiting for this, and they played the demo, and they now have no interest in it whatsoever. But that game suggested by the demo, it doesn't exist. It's this sort of very simple fight night game that has this sort of ground stuff that involves a very, very simplistic minigame. I don't know. It makes me appreciate John. I think he gave me a copy of EA MMA that I played with a little bit, but that genuinely was complex, and I never really spent the time enough to try and understand it. This makes me appreciate that all the more. And if the servers weren't offline, which they did almost immediately after it came out, I'd go back to it. But I like EA UFC. I do. I mean, I've been enjoying it, and I will enjoy it for some more time, I'm sure. But it is a fucking missed opportunity. The fact that it could have been a great way of introducing people into sort of the complexities of the sport, but it's just not that. It's fight night with some fucking mini games thrown in on the ground.
That's going to piss a lot of people off.
Well, yeah, I should imagine so. I mean, another friend of mine has been on at me constantly because he has been waiting for this game to buy a PlayStation, and I've said I wouldn't. It's not the game that was promised. The second one, let's see. But
it sold really well, didn't it?
It did, and that's kind of a shame. I don't know, but they have pandered to the more casual player. I mean, I am the more casual player. I want to pick this up and play online and just whack 7 bells out of somebody and maybe potentially win a very simplistic mini game. But I would like to have been introduced to things that I don't understand, and maybe it been a bit more of an exploration of the sport. But it's not that at all.
Shame. Although saying that, I had no interest, and I still have no interest. So there we go. No change. My number one then is watch_dogs@hotmail.com. It's it's hard to talk about this game because there's literally I have no feeling towards it other than feeling a bit cold. It just, to me, it feels as though a bunch of things nicked from other games put together with a Ubisoft coat of, it feels, when you get really nasty tasting pills and then they coat it in sugar to make it taste a little bit better. That's what Watch Dogs feels like to me. It feels like a nasty pill that you're supposed to take because everyone's talking about it. And although it tastes a little bit better because they put a little bit of sugar around it, if you get down to the actual pill, it tastes like shit. And you don't care how much better it makes you as a person, you don't want to take it. That bit didn't work, but the rest of it did. It's just, I don't know, the main character is just lifeless. I said him because I reviewed this for Spong, and I said in my review, he doesn't feel like a character that's been spoken about for a long time. When you look at some of the best characters in video gaming, you can imagine people sitting down and discussing Bayonetta for a long time, Solid Snake for a long time, stuff like this. You can't imagine them sitting down and talking about Aiden for more than 20 minutes. More than, it's got to be a white guy with some stubble who speaks with a sore throat. It's got to be. Why? Because that's what we do now, isn't it? Oh, okay, well, we'll do that. That's bad. That when you've got a game that's had so much money and marketing and stuff like that, to get a character that's so bland and dull it's just so uninspiring. The hacking stuff is pretty cool. I like that stuff, but then it gets a little bit old. Do you find that it seems to want to prompt you to do hacking stuff when you're not really like? When you lift up the barriers, if you're driving along in a car chase and it goes beep, 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 when it goes to beep, you think, right, press the button now. But when you press the button, when it seems to prompt you to press the button, the barriers shoot up in front of you and you smash into them. And you go, okay, why is it asked me to do that? It's stuff like that where it doesn't feel fluid enough. It doesn't feel as though I'm setting this. Like, I don't feel as if the city is my weapon. If you want to go with stupid cliches, I don't feel as though I'm controlling this city. I feel like I'm pressing a button, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. The city itself feels completely, other than the added layer of going up to any character and finding out their job and stuff. I like that, but other than that, the city kind of feels like the Truman Show, where everything is built around this one person. Like, you walk into the shop and all they're selling is clothes that you're already wearing, but you're in different colours. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like when you walked into shops in GTA, you had all these clothes that didn't suit your character, but you could still buy them and wear them about, and that's how you get those wacky pictures of like Trevor in girls' clothing and stuff like that. It feels like everything is built around this one character, and it just makes it lifeless. Like, for example, if there's traffic all around some traffic lights in the real world and you turn the light screen, not everyone would just whack their foot down on the accelerator at once and cause a crash. That's not how traffic works. So, like, when you're doing it in this and you watch them all just speed towards each other and smash against each other, you just kind of think you're taking the real feel of a city out of it, It's weird. It's just it feels fake. It feels like you can see how the city's working behind what you're actually seeing, and there's no natural feel to it whatsoever, which is bizarre because that's what sold me on the game in the first place. When I saw that first reveal trailer, I was like, wow, this feels like an actual city that's running, and I can fuck around within it. But then when I got the actual game, it was like, I see under the hood instantly now. The missions themselves are okay. There's nothing terrible about them. There's nothing massively brilliant about them. You're doing hacking, so at some point you're going to be doing a shit Pipe Mania mini game. Although it's not really Pipe Mania, it is like sort of just redirecting streams of electricity, I suppose it's meant to be, or data. I don't know. There's nothing about it. When I play a game, what I want it to do is make me want to turn it on again. You know, when I play FIFA and I'm in, you know, that sort of, I've got the feeling of wanting to play FIFA. All I'm thinking about is getting home and sticking it on. Dark Souls, when I turn it off, I'm thinking about sticking it back on again. It really takes an effort for me to put Watch Dogs on again. And the main draw for it, for me, is invading other people's worlds. And even that gets a bit boring because it's, you know, it's just a little mini game. So, although it's not a terrible game, it's clearly not a terrible game. Gunplay's good. Hacking stuff is fun at times. You know, it looks good in places. It's just nothing other than uninspiring. And it just feels like it's been put out there. And I don't know. I have no strong feeling towards this game whatsoever. And that's bad. That's bad for a game that's had so much time and effort put into it. That's really disappointing. I was hoping it was going to be something more. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's my number 6, although I've played it over the past several weeks quite a bit. I think that Watch Dogs has benefited massively from me playing it in very small increments with lots of time spaced in between them, because I do genuinely think it's very good. I think above everything else, the action sequences are really strong and actually quite distinctive. Because it's always forcing you to use your environment. I mean, in the best sandboxes of this kind, even in Grand Theft Auto, you can basically find a box, sit behind it, and just pop all the enemies off from here. And here you're rushed from every direction, everywhere, and I was constantly panicked by enemies coming from all directions and trying to find a new place to hole up. And I just thought that was really refreshing because it's not one of those sandboxes that's content to just sort of, here's the action sequence, do this. I mean, I was really working to continue past certain points in that campaign, and the campaign has a lot more variety in it than most games of this kind. There is a healthy amount of platforming and sort of environmental puzzles. You know, those bits where you have to go and sort of basically figure out how to get up to those towers, figure out how to hack into the cameras and open those gates and stuff.
Yeah, but did you find like that actually just jumping about and climbing things and wasn't actually that fun?
I enjoyed those bits quite a bit,
really?
And when they started bringing them into the campaign, and there's bits, you know, like Far Cry where you can sort of unlock bits of the map, I thought they were, if not ingenious, very well designed. And I just thought it was nice that if you were somebody who maybe doesn't play action games and you were seduced by the hype of Grand Theft Auto, you'd go into it, and Grand Theft Auto is an action game at heart. So's this, but there was the amount of variety, the fact that it wasn't always just driving and shooting. I thought that was a really nice, fairly nice touch. I mean, boy, oh fucking boy, originality is a real virtue in a game like this, and there is a monumental lack of fresh ideas in Watch Dogs that it cannot be denied. And my main problem with the game, the thing that I really think is a real issue, is that whenever you set foot in a sandbox world, it's like signing a contract with the people who made it. You're not going to fucking waste my time, are you? And you know that's why Rockstar games persevere. That's part of the reason why they're so revered, I think. Because even though they do it, you know, a small part of Rockstar games is they sort of fill it with inane things, fetch quests and stuff. But it's a very small part of the package. You know, there's always, in any Grand Theft Auto, there's a tepid fetch quest here and there, but the side diversions are sort of an exploration of the systems and an exploration of the world. And, you know, Watch Dogs is just a bombardment of stuff that you do not want to fucking do. At first, I was like, oh, wow, it's just like, here, do this. I was like, wow, they're like, rather than go to a map, click on a thing, it's like, you know, but then if you go and do one of those things, there's a crime taking place, drive to the corner, shoot the guy, give the woman back her money, jump in the car, do it again. It's just like, it's the most inane and tedious bullshit that is kind of game developers taking advantage of this. We've spoken about this before, but whenever it was that people started talking about this magical number of 40 hours of gameplay, I'm sure it was around Grand Theft Auto 3, people would talk, wow, there's 40 hours of gameplay here. And after that, people were desperate to have that number bandied around as a selling point. We've got to the point now where I just like, if this was 5 hours long, I would fucking absolutely adore it. I think that's one of the reasons the Uncharted games are so amazing, is that there's these some of the most amazingly rendered environments you've ever seen in your life, and you run through them and then you never see them again. The fact that you're constantly going around this sandbox in Watch Dogs and go to A, pick this up, go to B, do your little electricity minigun. There's so much content. If you wanted to 100% and get all the trophies or achievements in Watch Dogs, good fucking luck doing it before like 2090 or whatever. I mean, but it's absurd. It's inanity. There's stuff that I never want to do in a game, and that's kind of, it's an illusion. The first time, I think it will be a really important moment whenever a sandbox comes out where it's kind of on the short side and there's no flab whatsoever. They don't do any of that stuff. There's no like random help that sort of side character do this or do, you know, all of that stuff. I mean, that's one of my only problems with Watch Dogs though, because apart from that, I like it. I didn't really have any problem with the main character. I followed the story. I think it's perfectly serviceable and at times quite engaging, and I do like when it goes big and when there are huge action sequences. It's not afraid to test you. I like the difficulty
when, especially, I think the best bits are where you're clearing out an area, because I think you can. What I tend to do is combine hacking cameras and mucking around with them with a little bit of stealth and a little bit of action. I think that works quite well. Usually I hack the cameras and try and kill the two people that can call back up as soon as I can, and then, you know, slowly start picking through them with my silenced pistol and fucking around with them and stuff like that. But again, it just, you know, even stuff like that, it doesn't feel like you're within a city. It feels like you're within little levels. And for a sandbox game, you know, it's weird. It's just weird. When I was talking to you about when I was writing a review, and I just thought it's the hardest thing I've ever had to write because I've nothing to say about it. You know, it's Watch Dogs. It's okay. You know, that's it. Bye. I don't know. It's another game. We've said this a lot today, but it's another game where you kind of think missed opportunity. Wouldn't it have been nice for the first couple of hours to really get into some cool hacking stuff so that you don't instantly have weapons on you and you're suddenly like this great, you know, you run around shooting things. You know, maybe ease us into that side of stuff that we're so familiar with, and up front show us what hacking can do for your character. Instead, you're in a city and you start with a shotgun and pistol and stuff like that. And okay, fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's weird. It is also like it feels like it's solved a problem with Grand Theft Auto in that if you get into a car chase, rather than fucking spend an hour escaping, you just get out your car, stick behind it, wait for everyone to put it up in front of you, kill them all, and then just drive away like nothing happened. But at the same time, that complete. But well, is it? It divorces you from the story completely because it has no bearing, no relation to reality. Especially as John very rightly pointed out, in a world that's supposed to be under constant surveillance, you can just massacre a load of people and then walk away.
That's weird.
So it's definitely a confused project. But
there's also some really fucking weird stuff. And what is that like psychedelic mini game shit about?
I don't know.
And then what is that about? It just there's some odd shit in this game. Also, I would rather you take out the psychedelic mini games and stick in a radio system, for example. Getting into a car and just playing a song, and then occasionally dropping in a news bulletin out of nowhere. You know, you get in a car in GTA, you feel like you're in the middle of a radio show in a living city. In here, it's like there's a track. Fuck off. That's all you need, innit? Weird. Very strange. Or improve the sound effects of the cars. The cars sound weird, man. They're so fucking bizarre. Trying to honk a horn in that game, it's like, I don't know, it's weird. Amateur hour. But it's all very minor stuff that I'm moaning about, but it's all stuff that if done well comes together to create a living city, and that's what's missing here, along with a half decent game.
Yeah, well, it's definitely missing a living city. But the funny thing is that it's yet another attempt to mimic Rockstar, and Rockstar are an incredibly weird unit of people, because what they do is they disappear. They don't have anything to do with. They don't have any traditional means of PR or any of that stuff. They disappear for years and come back with this mad opus, and people are constantly trying to mimic that, and it can't really be done because the strictures of
they need to get the game right. They need to get the game right first. That's what Rockstar do.
There is that as well. But yeah, those fucking psychedelic bouncing on flowers minigames, that felt like a direct lift from some of the fucking strange stuff that's in the last two Saints Row games.
Yep.
But even the sort of the drug campaigners in Grand Theft Auto 5, where you'd go there and then you'd have those mental. That felt like a really. Yeah, but that felt like a really respectful, tasteful nod towards Saints Row, sort of doffing caps at what I think is sort of a respectful. I like to think that was Rockstar's way of saying that we think those games are quite good, and this is a sort of something that's never appeared in any other. That was a completely out of character for a Grand Theft Auto game, as far as I could see.
Yeah, it was. But that's it. I mean, when you look at the games overall, when a game like Grand Theft Auto does something like that, it may seem like we've got favourites and we're letting Rockstar get away with stuff that we wouldn't let Ubisoft get away with. But because the overall class of the game, GTA, when you see something like that, you think that's an intentional nod towards Saints Row. When you see the flatness of Watch Dogs and you see something like that, you instantly feel as if they've shoved it in because someone played Saints Row at some point. Went, guys, we got to do something like this. Okay, we'll do it in your lunch break.
But this very, I mean, actually not slightly, very serious game suddenly has these random things in it. It doesn't fit at all. It's completely out of place.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely a confused project. But I like I said, since it came out 3-4 weeks ago, whenever it was, I've played it in sort of 3-hour chunks 2 or 3 times a week, and that's the way to play it. I find that I get fatigued with sandboxes anyway, but I've liked what I've played. I don't think it's a masterpiece at all, but I have enjoyed my time with it for sure.
Second one will be interesting.
I mean, that's definitely happening, of course, because
they've confirmed it. Yeah. So.
Oh, have they?
Well, they said we will see more from Watch Dogs. So yeah. Well, Ubisoft, man, they'll run that shit into the ground.
They will. I wouldn't be surprised if there was one ready to go this time next year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Well, look, my number one is a game that I've actually already spoken about. I spoke to John about it in the week last week. So if you've been on our YouTube channel recently, you've already heard this. It's a game called Enemy Front, which is a World War II game, and it's a sorry enterprise. It's awful, but it feels like it was abandoned rather than the work of incompetent people. So it's a strange one. But anyway, if you've seen that video, skip ahead 12 minutes. Otherwise, it's here. Here you go. Okay, my number one is a game called Enemy Front on the Xbox 360. It's also on PC and PS3. Have you played this?
Enemy Front? I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I heard about it I think it was E3 2012, where there were trailers and gameplay walkthroughs, and it looked really interesting. It looked like a World War II set sort of Far Cry. And apparently some of the developers from Far Cry 3 worked on this. It was also notable because Stuart Black worked on it, who is best known for working on the PS2 Xbox shooter Black, which is deservedly beloved, although he is now in danger of being more renowned for abandoning projects that then go on to be absolutely awful, because he left Enemy Front, and before that he left the 2011 PS3 360 game Body Count. Did you play that?
Game of the Year 2011.
One of the worst games ever made, unquestionably. But yeah, Enemy Front. I played the Xbox 360 version. I cannot vouch for the PC version. I'm sure it's superior because it cannot be any worse than this. The game starts in absolutely hysterical fashion with your character, who's a war correspondent, sitting at a microphone announcing that he's going to tell his story over a radio. And it cuts to people literally in the middle of battlefields, cowering over the radios to hear what this American has to tell them, with bullets flying above their heads. Everyone in the game is bearded and wears very trendy leather jackets, and the voice acting is pretty amazing, if only because everyone sounds like they're performing from the vantage point of a Prozac coma. I mean, if you found out that every actor was working for free during a series of lunch breaks, it wouldn't be a surprise in the slightest. And this all comes to a head brilliantly during the finale when you need to escape from this military base or facility
Spoilers.
of some sort. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole game you're escaping from military bases, whatever. I think you steal some parts of a space shuttle or a rocket or a weapon or something or other, and you have to get out of the base. And over the tannoy comes alarm. Oh my God. Delivered even less enthusiastically and energetically than that. Anyway, this is a game in which you walk through dilapidated buildings and fields, shooting people, making your way towards an omnipresent objective marker. And there are brilliant breach sequences, probably more breach sequences than there are in the remake of Medal of Honor.
Oh, no way.
Every single time you do a breach sequence, some guy goes, "Ugh," and he stumbles back from the door, which is about as close as the game gets to having any kind of pyrotechnics. Visually, this is an alarmingly poor video game. The cutscenes look like they've been encoded very, very quickly and have used as little disk space as possible. So, I mean, if you ever saw what the first sort of digital round of bootlegged pirated movies looked like maybe 15 years ago, the whole game looks like that. I mean, the cutscenes especially, but when anything moves faster than a snail's pace, there's just a mad amount of motion blur. Anything that's dark is just, again, it's just a block of blur that you can't even see. And
like
the
video
gameplay,
CDs.
Yeah, exactly like that. And the gameplay actually looks like that too. The game runs consistently at an incredibly low frame rate, and it is genuinely headache-inducing. And I mean, I'm not saying that to, a lot of people say that just to be flash, but this genuinely started to give me a headache quite quickly. And the low texture resolution and that very skittish frame rate means it's almost impossible to see anything unless it's directly in front of you and firing. So it's easier to use the radar and just shoot in the direction of the little red triangles than it is to actually go into a battlefield and try and see what you're looking at. Yeah. And actually, textures keep popping in and out. It's not unusual to see trees and large sections of buildings just appear and disappear in front of you completely. And the character models they're honestly not too far evolved from the ones seen in GoldenEye. They've got really angular heads and lifeless eyes, and they move really jerkily. But yeah, the game itself, you have a self-replenishing health meter, but a lot of the time you're sort of next to death after taking one bullet, and it can sometimes take 30 seconds to replenish, which doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're counting,
it sounds like a fucking long time.
It's an eternity when you're hiding in the corner of a room just trying to avoid going back to a checkpoint. But that meter, I realised, wasn't actually a health meter, it's an exposure meter, and it explains how visible you are to the enemy if you're going to make the terrible mistake of trying to play the game stealthily. But it only has two settings, full and empty, so if you're going to try and do it stealthily, you have got a hell of a mission on your hands. So the actual way you know whether you're dying or not is a tiny, slight pink mist around the very edges of the four corners of your screen, which you can barely see. So basically, there is no way of telling when you're next to death or when you're fighting fit. The most disappointing thing about the whole game is that the Far Cry systems that were suggested back at E3 2 years ago are just, they're completely... They basically don't exist.
Right.
For example, there are a couple of instances where you can scope out an area before you attack it with binoculars and tag enemies so that they appear on your HUD, but they appear on your minimap anyway, so there is literally no point in doing it in the first place. And for a game that touts itself as having an open world, it's not open at all. You're guided by fences and hedges and wreckage blocking things constantly, so it may as well be on rails. I mean, never before has a quote-unquote open world game had a world that is less open than this one. I also don't think that the developers ever got around to programming the ability for you to shoot at enemies that are moving, because throughout the whole duration of the game, I tried gunning directly at running enemies, and then I tried compensating for movement and shooting a little bit ahead of them, but nothing, never. You had to wait until they got locked in behind a piece of cover before you could ever shoot them. And its failure as a stealth game, again, is highlighted by the fact that you can take damage from people literally shooting 180 degrees away from you, not even looking at in the general vicinity. Supposedly, you're sneaking around, and they're firing in the opposite direction, and you're taking damage from them. Also, I mean, you need to have the patience of a saint, because there's this stealth melee attack, standard practice, I mean, in which you sneak up behind a soldier and then press the thumbstick in, and then you sort of grab him by the neck and you stab him, and it takes so long in this. I mean, it takes almost 10 seconds, so that you'd be mad to keep doing it. If you kept doing it, it would double the length of the game. And the frame rate dips so severely every time that you use it that I thought my 360 was about to crash, and I'm not kidding. And actually, this game has the best bug I've ever seen in a game, where a non-player character appears at the very beginning of the game, which says, "Which gun do you want? Do you want in my left hand or the one in my right?" And I picked the gun on my left, and my in-game arm reached in to pick it up off him, and I teleported into the other guy's head and watched him hand my character the gun as my character instantly turned into him, leant against the wall and started smoking a cigarette like nothing happened. Really quite an amazing bug. When you're in combat and you hit something, a little white X comes up to show you that you've hit them, and a little red X comes up to tell you when you've got a kill, but they're completely mixed up. Sometimes you get kills and get a white X, so you think that they're still there. Sometimes you graze them and a red X comes up, so you think they're dead, you walk in, they jump up and they're still alive. And this is a game where things like rocks don't give you any cover from gunfire, but if you can, find a hay bale and you're completely safe. No bullets can penetrate that at all. There's weird systems, there's a slow-mo sniper, like it goes to slow motion to follow the trajectory of a bullet from a sniper rifle, but it doesn't happen, there's no reason for it to happen. It doesn't happen when you get a good headshot or when it's the last person on the battlefield. It just randomly happens sometime. And there's also, it's one of those games that shamelessly, I think on the back of the box, it touts how long it is, whether it's like 10 hours of gameplay or 12 hours of gameplay. And it's one of those games that's shameless. So there's a battle in a church quite early on. Quick, kill the guys at the back. Quick, kill the guys at the front. That takes 20 minutes. And then you go and have a fight in a field. And then you're back to the church. Quick, kill the guys at the front. Quick, And there's a sequence at the beginning in some sewers. And you better believe that you're going back to sewers again later on. There's loads of bits of environments that aren't finished. They're clearly separate secondary pathways that were meant to be used for sort of gameplay purposes, but they lead to nowhere. There was one sort of rocky overpass that I followed round, and it just turned into a wall of grass surrounded by holes in the ground that you could fall in and get stuck, so you had no choice but to restart the checkpoint. Jesus. Just elements of the game that are just not finished.
Why does this game exist?
I really don't know. I wouldn't want to speculate, but I think it was abandoned is the main problem.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes you pick up grenades and ammo automatically, as you do in a lot of shooters, and sometimes you have to stand over them and press X. And sometimes the game tells you your inventory is full when you're desperately trying to survive and pick up some grenades to use in battle, and you can't.
You've got some serious patience to have even played 20 minutes of this.
Don't ask me, and I finished it. I don't know why. I also lost track of the number of times I got stuck on scenery, but I never once lost track of the number of times enemies threw grenades at me, because it happened once, apparently. Despite never seeing an animation of a soldier throwing anything at me at all, at one point a little thing came up saying, "Press RB to return the grenade." So I pressed RB and nothing happened. I ran away and there was no explosion. So I don't even think enemy grenades are in the game at all. And again, there's bits that seem designed to inspire you to experiment. There's a bit where you start on a bridge and there's an enemy encampment across the bridge, and there's a truck next to you. You tinker with it and it can career into their headquarters to confuse them, and then you can sneak around trying to take them out, theoretically. But there's invisible walls everywhere, so you have no choice but to follow the path of the truck that you've just sent down towards them. So it turns into yet another wank gunfight. It's a game that wasn't finished. It was abandoned. There are half-utilised ideas. There's no polish at all. Bugs all over the place, and the gameplay isn't just derivative and sloppy. It's just completely unengaging. It's impossible to say whether underneath all of this there's a good game somewhere, because in its current state it's so agonisingly poor that I don't even think about going anywhere near it. The only people who I think might be potentially drawn to it are the kind of people who are suckers for getting trophies and achievements, but way too many of a significant amount of the achievements and trophies have to be gotten in multiplayer. And yes, there is a multiplayer mode. There are 3 game modes and 4 maps, and you can only quick match by selecting the map and the game mode, which means that because there's so few people playing it, the only games you will ever find are at the map at the top of the list and the gameplay mode at the top of the list. So deathmatch on this some map. I've put a playthrough on our YouTube channel if you want to see that, because It's quite a thing to look at. But yeah, when you play online, the little red X or white X that appears to sort of let you know whether you've hit something doesn't happen at all. So there is literally no feedback. You have no idea when you're hitting somebody. It's just people running around in circles and just spraying and praying. It's one of the worst multiplayer shooters I've ever played. And you also can't start a game with less than 6 players, and you can't jump into any games once they've started. So it is as if the game's creators did not want anybody to play it. And if you manage to get a game, you will understand why. If somebody put a gun to your head and said, play this game, in that scenario, yeah, probably you should play it. But this is really quite... I don't think at any point in the next couple of years we'll never see a buggier, less accomplished or less essential video game boxed product released in this state. I mean, I feel sorry for it more than anything. I feel sorry for the people who wanted it to be something decent, and sorry for the people who should never... can never put this on their CV in a million years if they want to ever work again. But more importantly, I feel sorry for the people who are going to pay good money for it in the sort of misguided belief that it's competent or even finished, because it's neither of those things. I don't care who you are, a completist, a World War II nut, Stuart Black's mum. If you are thinking about playing this, trust me, just do not hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. And that was that.
Well, great opinions.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you liked them.
I've no idea what was said.
Well, you should have done your research and checked our YouTube channel, boy.
You're lucky I'm here.
Well said. Good point. Okay, well, that is us done. Thank you very much for listening. It's it's over 2 hours with my bit inserted, so I hope it wasn't too painful for you. But yeah, thanks very much for listening. As usual, Chet Roivas, John Denton, at Chet and Johns on Twitter, Facebook, don't bother. Our YouTube channel, we try and keep it updated at least once a day with stuff. Dave, pluggage?
Yeah, search Wolbs is that guy on Google, and follow me on Twitter at David Turners.
David Turner with an S, wow, crazy.
I am nuts, right? Absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Don't take his word for it. Go and find out for yourself. But yes, thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back to normal next week. Cheers.
I love you. Goodbye.
Traversing the outer office with ease, and he's through the door without touching the sides. Yes, and he's going for the coat. Off in one, and will he make it on the peg? There it goes. Colin Hunt reigns supreme. Morning, Teresa. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Yes, the train was delayed. There was a lion lying on the line. No, I'm lying. It was a sea lion. No, only joking. It was Jimmy Greaves. Leaves. No, I came by car. Couldn't find a space, as per.
Colin, you do make me laugh.
Well, who was it said laughter is the best tonic? You will answer the question! Come on, laughter's the best tonic. 30 seconds, who was it? It was me, just then. Said it twice, thought you'd have spotted one of them.
Hello. Got a computer here for you, am I right place?
Oh, yes, great.
Right. So, you must be Teresa McMahon.
That's right.
Right. And you...
I am the Antichrist. I will rip your heart out and eat it. Oh dear, only joking. I'm not the Antichrist, I'm the antifreeze. The anti-Macassar. The Antiques Roadshow. I am Hugh Scully. Yes, I expect you want to know how much this monitor is worth, for insurance purposes, of course. No, Colin Hunt. Hello.
Bit of a joker, are you, Mr. Hunt?
I'm always telling Colin he should go on the telly.
Crime Watch. I am the Chiswick Strangler. Sorry. Have you seen this man?
Yeah, do you want to sign this form for me, please?
I'd love to, but I'm sorry I can't, I'm afraid.
Why?
Because my hand has just dropped off.
Do you want to sign this for me, love? I'm not much joy with this wanker.
I say that's mine over there. Excuse me, that's mine over there.
What?
Colin Hunt's office trolley. Colin Hunt's office trolley, you see?
Really?
Colin Hunt's off his trolley. Colin Hunt's off his trolley. I said Colin Hunt's off his trolley. Colin Hunt... Yes, well, he got it in the end.